go again. Incredible. Anything is possible. And the crowd absolutely love it. We're heading into the wall. Oh, he's got it. He's got it. This is why we love Formula One. Welcome to Title Decider Championship contenders.
Hello and welcome then down here to the pit lane. There you can see the podium. If Lando Norris is standing there tomorrow, he will be world champion. But there is a small matter of a battle for pole position between now and then. The car of Oscar Piastri has just roared into life behind me. And we have Jolyon Palmer, Juan Pablo Montoya and James Hinchcliffe. Three drivers who understand a bit about pressure, and my word is there pressure tonight. Reel off those stats you were giving me after FP3, James.
Look, this is the most important qualifying session of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris's career, because here in Abu Dhabi, the pole sitter has gone on to win the last 10 editions of this race. Nobody has won from off the second row, or further back than the second row. And it's so close between them throughout free practices 1, 2, and 3. You're gonna have to be perfect, because qualifying here more than ever is absolutely critical.
On paper, Juan Pablo, who's on top?
On paper, I would say the McLarens look on top, but not by much. I think they're better than they look, and I do think they're hiding a little bit of pace, because they're extremely good in Sector 3 in practice, and the other two sectors are pure straight. It's like, I think there's more to be had, and I think they might surprise everybody in qualifying.
Jolyon, from practice, what inkling are we getting as to Max Verstappen's form and how big a step Red Bull may be able to make towards Lando Norris, who seem to have the edge?
I think Max will be really close still. He's not far away. The whole field is separated by very little, 16 corners here. And last year it was 6/10 covered everyone bar Jack Doohan, who was standing in for his debut. And he was only 2/10 further back. So as an indication of the entire field, it'll be tight. And I thought Max was looking much better right at the end of practice, gave us some more of an inkling as to where he'll be. The car looks good in the middle sector, but as Juan Pablo says, that final sector is where McLaren looks strong, so that could be the difference at this stage.
A car setup, of course, how these two teams are setting the car up differently to take advantage of the two sectors and the way that they transpire here on the track. Which other teams may well get in the mix, though, and spoil the party? We're talking of the fight between Verstappen, Piastri and Norris, but
George Russell can get himself involved in this conversation. He was quickest in FP3. We've always sort of seen on any given weekend he can be in the mix for a front row, for a podium, so he's the one I think is most likely to interrupt. But then at the same time, we've seen some incredible performances from the likes of Ollie Behrman in the Haas and both of the Sauber drivers, who, if they absolutely nail it, any faults or whatsoever from the top players, and they could be right there in the first 3 rows.
Right, okay, we're gonna let this engine continue to roar behind us. We're gonna head to the studio, because as James has just mentioned there, George Russell got himself in the conversation for pole earlier on. He was a smidge quicker than Lando Norris, but how and where did he do it, Alex Brundle?
Well, on pace and on points, this is Lando's to lose, but this is a qualifying bias circuit, guys. Pole needs to happen, and the Mercedes are looking really, really pesky. Massage the air around the car, put yourself in the most efficient position as much as you like, but it's going to be the human performance that wins or loses for pole position. Take this lap between George Russell and Lando Norris at the end of FP3. Only 0.04 between the two of them, and you can see the finite mistakes being made all around the lap. Lando Norris slightly wide of that first apex, gives George Russell 0.02 of a second in the first corner, which he then carries through the rest of that first sector. But as we get down towards turn 5, it's George's turn to be a little bit messy. Gets in slightly late. This time, Lando catches the apex sweetly with that left front tyre. George Russell finds himself ever so slightly wide. Lando is going to steal back 0.03 of a second. Will this play a role in qualifying? George following Fernando Alonso here. Picks up a lovely toe down the back straight. That toe worth 1.5 tenths between the two of them as they make their way down towards turn 6. Now, we know that Lando's been super strong all weekend so far, but this is such a strong circuit for Mercedes. Lando really cannot afford to make errors like this if he wants to start on pole position or on the front row of the grid. Too much curb, bit of oversteer, and then that costs him under traction through the exit of turn 6 as well. Neat and tidy for Russell. Another 200ths bled on the tiny margins throughout this lap. This, though, what McLaren have got in the pocket. You can see that they're well behind on the timeline at the base of the graph when they make their way into turn 9 and into the final sector. But from turn 9 onwards, it's a McLaren efficiency fest. Lando takes almost 1/10 of a second through the mid-corner of 9 and then picks up those increments of time we've been seeing all through the free practices in 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. The car just follows the steering wheel, and this is where they've kept the rear tyre under control throughout the weekend so far and picked up
lot of passes down here.
But you have to punch out on the exit as well. Barriers closing.
Tighter than it looked, Julian.
Flat out in Formula One. I feel really sick.
I think it's fair to say you felt quite sick after that one, didn't you, Julian?
It took me a while to recover. I'm not a good passenger, and he was brave with the barriers as well.
Plenty of room.
You were pretty brave with the barriers, even driving to the Qatar track. I said, you're not in the car now. We don't need a super close to the wall AWS graphic, James Hinchcliffe.
Plenty of margin, Laura. Plenty of margin.
No, not for a mere
Hinch, too
mortal.
close to the
He
wall.
was- yeah.
On the A11 in Losail.
All right, this track, though, you boys went out there, loved it. Where are the tricky parts? You've been trackside today as well, Juan Pablo.
Oh, I think turn 12 for me, where I was, I think is the hardest track, you know, the hardest part, because if you come with a really good lap, you're combining, you're turning and braking, and if you miss it, the problem, the mistake there is you actually completely ruin the lap because you go off the track. But there's so much lap time to be had there. I think that for me is the number one.
I think, yeah, that I agree. It's a really tricky corner. Generally braking, a lot of big braking zones, easy to lock up, and critical exits as well. Also, track limits potentially.
Say I'll chuck in turn 1 for exactly that reason. Sector 1 is essentially just one corner. The run you get out of turn 1 carries all the way through the flat out 2 and 3 down to that brake zone for 5. So if you can carry an extra mile an hour to minimum speed, get on the power a little earlier, you make up time that whole sector. But if you overdo it, track limits can absolutely come into play here. We've seen it before.
Yeah, track limits. And we saw, obviously, turn 9, where Lewis Hamilton came a cropper earlier on. But it looked like actually it was an issue with the car, wasn't it, James?
It certainly looked like that. Alex Brundle did a great analysis of that back in the studio. It looked like something in the right rear gave up. The bottom of the car, the back of the car, I should say, just dropped, bottomed out. And at that point, nothing Lewis can do. You know, we went by Ferrari. It looks like that the car is all in one piece, ready to go for qualifying. But you can see here, the right rear just drops. It bottoms out, floors on the ground, and around you go.
They're still busy. I mean, they're squaring it up. All the bits are on the car, but let's have a look at the rear.
You see the camera shake, you know, right at that moment. It's almost like it hits a bump, but again, Alex found that good angle that in slow motion shows the back of the car just drop, the right rear
the
drop.
The hard thing is the DRS closes at the same time, so automatically the back of the car is going to come down. But it feels like somebody pulled a handbrake.
It's a strange one because you can't see any component braking on any of the angles. Normally you see something going, but yeah, it looks fairly square when he's in the barriers as well, but it certainly was a strange one for Lewis.
Have you ever seen a driver spin there that early in the corner?
No.
Neither have I. Neither have I.
He should have said, nearly you taking me around.
Yeah, true. That was more on the exit.
That
was more on the exit. So that's for me what kind of stands out is it's a really peculiar place to lose it.
Seems like a failure of some sort, doesn't
it could be a damper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a damper or a bump rubber gave up, everything looks the same, but now the car is completely on the ground.
Just one word on Lewis Hamilton and his future. It's been the worst season of his life. They're his words. It's been a nightmare. It's been horrible. How does he end this, guys? How does he finish this season off? How does he mentally get there?
As quickly as possible, I think, is probably where it's at for Lewis.
For me, he's still hungry. If he didn't care, he would be relaxed about it. If he didn't want to win and prove to everybody he can win at Ferrari, he would be chill. There would be no drama. But the drama shows how committed he is to get the job done. So, is he happy? No. But it doesn't mean he's going to back up.
Didn't do FP1 because Otto Leclerc was in the car. Didn't do much of FP3 in the end. Was looking actually pretty good this morning before the crash. Was looking quite quick. But when you're down on that much mileage for the weekend, even for Lewis, I think it's a tricky one now for him to even make Q3 maybe.
I'm just looking behind you, Julian, because that's probably a very promising sound in the garage of Yuki Tsunoda, because we also had that moment between Tsunoda and Kimi Antonelli earlier on in FP3. Engine fired up, so a bit of work going on there. Work being done to Lewis Hamilton's car, work being done to Kimi Antonelli's car for this unsafe release into the pit lane, side pod biffed, and then for Kimi Antonelli, it was front wing.
Yeah, just a bit sloppy. Toto Wolff came out and apologized to Red Bull for that. You know, as a front wing for Kimi, easily changed, but floor damage and side pod damage for Tsunoda, not the case. Ended his session. Like you say, some big work probably happening in the Red Bull garage to get that floor changed out, but cars fired up, drivers fired up. Let's see what Yuki can do.
Jolyon, we're going to let you head to commentary for what is going to be a historic hour here under the lights, but you did say Lando Norris earlier on you think may have the edge. Max Verstappen can deal with the pressure. Can I trouble you for a name nailed to the mast for pole?
I'm going to nail Norris to the mast. I think he can do it under pressure. I think he's had a very good run through free practice. We'll see what the pressure does to him, but I'm sticking with Lando.
Lovely. Enjoy this one. Gonna have fun. He'll be alongside Alex Jakes, of course. Right, Lawrence Barretto is buzzing about the paddock for us. Another team who looked excellent earlier on was Sauber. Lawrence is talking to Jonathan Wheatley.
Jonathan, the pace of the car so far this weekend has looked really good. Now, I know it's only been practice, but how excited can you get ahead of qualifying?
I think keeping my feelings under check at the moment. Clearly the Haas, both drivers were fast in P3 this morning as well. And I think, you know, we're finding ourselves in this normal midfield battle that we've been in all year. Yeah, it's going to be really, really tight going into qualifying.
Were you surprised a little bit about how good the car has been? I know there's a few bit more like low speed stuff here, which I know the car seems to like, but are you surprised at just how competitive both cars have been so far?
We had a pretty strong run through P1 and P2 yesterday, and I think today in P3 we're about where we've been at quite a few circuits this year, where we're kind of on the cusp of getting both cars into Q3, but you really need to have that perfect run through. I mean, just to get through Q1 at the moment, this is the toughest session of the year. Every single race we've been at for the last, I don't know, 15 races, the difference, the margins are so tight. So, look, I'm keeping my expectations well under control at the moment.
I mean, I know it's only 2/10, I think, in FP3 from P4 down to P11. You were talking about the really tight margins. What is going to make the difference? Is it operationally in qualifying, just making sure you're out at the right time? What it come down to?
You need everything. You need track position at the right time. You need to be on track when the track's at its latest, and that's why you see this pushing in and this queuing, this hustle and bustle at the end of the pit lane to try to be on track at the exact perfect time. And above that, I think these cars are really tricky to drive within a certain window, and you need both drivers to hit every sector and string together that perfect lap, and that's what you need. You need the perfect lap to get through from Q1 to Q2.
Great to hear from Jonathan Wheatley. Thank you, Lawrence Barretto. We can't forget, of course, for these teams down towards this end of the pit lane, every single place and point really matters, and Sauber are embroiled in a fight. P7, P8, P9 still up for grabs. It's as important to them as a world title is up the other end. We talk about fine margins. Who else may spring a surprise, do we think?
Oh, for sure, you gotta say the Saubers are gonna surprise, and their balance, those cars look really good. Ollie Berman has done a really good job. Fernando, I think Fernando is trying so hard. I think he always tries really hard, but I think he's really comfortable with the car this week. I think they've done a really good job, and he could be somebody that is way too close for Max, for Lando, for all of them for the championship, and he can make their race pace is not great, but if he gets qualifies well and gets a good start, it just can ruin somebody's day.
Right, back to the battle at the top. Back to this three-way fight that we have, not just for pole position, which is important here, but for the world title. How does each one of them get pole, and how could each one of them lose it?
Honestly, I think it simply comes down to who makes the fewest mistakes, or who makes no mistakes at all. I mean, the margins are so small. You know, I agree with what Jolyon said, that the Red Bull probably has a little bit more in it. They're good at turning things up on a Saturday. I do think the McLaren's still overall the best package. But we saw, you know, Piastri make a small mistake on his soft runs in FP2. All it takes, that little bit of a lock up into one of these big break zones, a track limits issue, something small, traffic. You heard Jonathan Wheatley talk about that. Track position is going to be so important, because we saw, I think for me, bigger track evolution in FP3 than you normally see at this point of the weekend. So everyone's going to be fighting to be the last car across the line.
Two names, please, for pole.
Lando.
Lando Norris for pole, that's the prediction here. Thank you so much, Juan Pablo. Thank you very much, James Hinchcliffe, as well. Here we go then. How important is this next hour? Sit back and savor what we are witnessing here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The fight for the 2025 world title is about to begin.
last 10 races here, one from pole. Drivers on the front row have finished 1-2 in their starting order in 7 of the last 10 Grand Prix here, and there are 3 drivers in contention for the championship. This is the most intense and important qualifying session of the season. Welcome along, everyone. We're at Yas Marina, Abu Dhabi, for the season finale. 58 laps to come in tomorrow's race tonight. We're worried about
211 miles per hour. It's a 3.2 mile, 5.2 kilometre circuit. And the Grand Prix tomorrow will run to 58 laps. These are the tyres for the weekend. It's the C5, the C4 and the C3 tyre available to those in the field. At the final Grand Prix of the year, it's qualifying at round 24 of the season. It is time for the last laps of the year at high grip, low fuel, full attack, under the floodlights with a championship of the world on the line. Formula One at its finest. Alongside me in the commentary box, a 13-time Grand Prix winner. We welcome David Coulthard back to the broadcast DC. Nights like this, low fuel, the grandstand's packed, and 3 drivers in contention for the title. Doesn't get much better.
It doesn't. This is what Grand Prix drivers live for. Yes, getting on the podium and spraying the champagne is the ultimate reward, but driving a Grand Prix car, no holds barred, new tyres, maximum engine power, low fuel, it's the journey into the unknown. Whoever ends up in pole position, that is the quickest lap that will be done round here this weekend, this year.
The form guide from this weekend so far: Lando Norris topped the first 2 practice sessions. George Russell came into play in FP3. And normally, Lando Norris, George Russell get on very, very well. But Lando Norris doesn't want to see George Russell anywhere near him, because that's the sort of scenario that could keep Lando Norris off the podium. If he's on the podium this weekend, he's champion of the world.
Get along well? Are you forgetting the international rules of slipping a crash helmet on? There is no friends on the racetrack, and the great misnomer is teammates. That said, the big talk is if we find ourselves in a scenario where Max is leading this Grand Prix, Oscar was second, and we had his teammate Lando outside the top 3, would Oscar move to help him win? Well, we can get to that tomorrow, but that may be the only time that teammates might play ball.
Oscar Piastri can take himself away from that line of questioning by sticking it on pole position. He's never finished in the top 5 around this circuit. It is his 3rd season in Formula One, so it's not a huge sample size, and we will find ourselves with a battle for pole position beginning with Q1 in a few moments time. 18 minutes will be put on the clock, and we are counting down a minute away. The 3 contenders in the mix. Earlier on, Lando Norris was in 2nd place, Max Verstappen was in 3rd, Fernando Alonso was P4, ahead of the 3rd contender. Oscar Piastri, who sat out FP1, found himself in 5th position, his 2nd hour of practice. Lando Norris has been in the top 2 all weekend long, and if that continues, he's got a chance to do what Jorge Lorenzo has done a couple of times in his career and call himself a world champion if he stays in the top 2 this weekend. But this is a hurdle and a half. The qualifying hour, all the cars out on track, and they're queued up at the end of the pit lane. We've already had contact in the pit lane earlier in the weekend between Kimi Antonelli and Yuki Tsunoda. And now we see the red light with the 2 Alpines at the end. Joining us in commentary, having made his way from that pit lane to the box, Jolyon Palmer, for what is promising, Jolyon, to be one of the sessions of the season.
Yeah, massive qualifying session, isn't it? A chance for Lando to alleviate a lot of pressure on his shoulders for tomorrow, and a chance for Oscar and Max to throw in a load of pressure on Lando. I would say he's looked pretty good through the 3 hours of practice that we've had so far, but now that it really counts, there's a different level of pressure on him. So the McLarens and Max should have a nice run through Q1 and Q2. The field is close, but they should have a chance to dial into this qualifying session a little bit before we get to crunch time. Just don't want to leave yourself under pressure and need a lap earlier than Q3, really.
Yeah, there's, as we've seen this year, qualifying has had its moments of being so close. You can't afford to not go for it. You know, they've got to deliver a lap, and they've got to deliver a lap at the right moment in this first part of qualifying, because the circuit will continue to evolve. It was a little bit gusty when I was in the pit lane before heading up to the comm box, but just looking at our graphics here available, it's showing a wind speed that's negligible, so that may not come into play, but we do know that these cars can be a little bit wind sensitive.
Yeah, any wind direction change can affect the cars dramatically. A form guide for you across this hour. McLaren and Lando Norris very effective in the third and final sector of this racetrack, and we are seeing different cars pull different sectors that look very, very impressive, but you've got to wait until the end of the lap to get the full picture. There is the best qualifying result in Abu Dhabi for Lando Norris, for Max Verstappen, for Oscar Piastri. The championship battle graphic for you there. Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen making contact at turn 1 of lap 1 year ago. Out on track, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hülkenberg, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton, who had a crash at turn 9 earlier on. Ferrari have repaired the car after he spun into the barriers in the final practice session of the season.
Yes, they've got Lewis out nice and early just to make sure that the car's okay before the final throws of Q1, where Lewis will be hoping to make it cleanly through, but he's up against it because he missed FP1 and a good chunk of FP3 in the end.
Did we get to the end? Yeah, did we get to the bottom of what caused that crash? Because it didn't look like it was entirely at his own hands. The car sort of squatted down at that corner before he lost control.
Ferrari have been tight-lipped about it, and they were very busy patching the car up in between the two sessions, but I agree, it looked like there was something on the right rear that just buckled slightly. It wasn't obvious as to what that was, but I'm sure we'll find out more this evening. But anyway, the more important thing is that Hamilton's back out, and he was feeling more confident as well before that crash. He was looking much better.
It just unsettles you, though, doesn't it? When you're, well, I was going to say at one with your car, but I'm not sure he's been at one with his car since Shanghai sprint race. He has not been happy at all with its performance. But when they rebuild it, they're putting parts on that are within engineering tolerances exactly the same, but you are changing a little bit the car, aren't you? And it feels different for a driver.
And actually, sometimes when I was down in the pits, they were still trying to square up the front suspension on Lewis's car. He obviously went front in at this corner, and it was one of the things that hurt Oscar in Brazil. He had the crash in the sprint in turn 3 on the curb, and McLaren, they got the car back out, but they didn't necessarily have time to absolutely fine-tune the setup to make sure it was millimetre perfect, and they left the ride height slightly suboptimal, and it cost him just a little bit of time through qualifying, and then the race he obviously came 5th with a penalty as well. But it always a catalogue from the initial crash.
Hamilton goes over the line and he moves ahead of Pierre Gasly at the exact moment that Colapinto's time is deleted for track limits at turn 1, so he's gone deep into the first turn of the racetrack. Lance Stroll goes to the top of the page, Hamilton running the medium tyre, Gasly running the medium tyre. Hülkenberg is on the soft, the driver who in qualifying here last year put it into 4th position before getting a penalty for an infringement at the exit of the pit lane.
Verstappen's on the circuit on an outlap. The Mercedes and the McLarens are waiting for the moment. Lando has just headed out, so we will see what he can do. Worth noting, Carlos Sainz was talking about it before the weekend, a former teammate of Norris. This is a really good circuit on paper for Lando. So Lewis is happy with the car again. Medium tyres on and the Saubers have been looking quite good, so it might look that he's 6/10 adrift, but actually by the time you put the softs on and then add in the fact that Saubers are looking at Q3, that's not terrible for a first lap.
Yeah, the reassuring thing, I think, is even at this stage in his very experienced career on track limits there, just had a little tank slapper, and we'll see going beyond the white lines, and, well, maybe a bit more than just beyond the white lines, a bit scrappy.
Enough of that time to be deleted. This is the 16th and final corner of the racetrack, and that was Lance Stroll dancing beyond the white line as well. You're looking at Sauber, who are having an excellent weekend so far in what is their final race in Formula One as Sauber. Started in 1993. At one point they turned into BMW. At another point they were sponsored by Alfa Romeo, and then you find yourself finishing off with the Sauber name, turning into Audi for the next season, for the next Grand Prix, the season opener in Melbourne.
Yeah, and I see Peter Sauber, the founder, is here this weekend, not looking any different from when he started the team 30 years ago. So I don't know if it's the Zurich mountains or some other amazing genetics, but the stress of running a Formula One team has served him well.
Yeah, he's had a good time over 3 decades. Hülkenberg and Bortoleto 1 and 2 in Sauber's final Grand Prix qualifying session. Everyone's still to put times on the board though, and we're running visor cam with the resurgent Max Verstappen, driver who was close on a second run on old tyres in practice, is, as you would expect, up on Hulkenberg through the middle section of the lap.
The visor cam is a lovely way to see the settings that Max is changing as well. Brake balance shift into turn 9, out of turn 9 as well. You've got a few straights around the circuit where you can fine-tune loads of parameters in the cockpit. That was just the brake balance. There's a global brake balance that he's doing across the whole board. There's brake maps, there's engine braking, there's differential settings as well that you can do if you're not happy with particular corners. Suggest he was going rearwards for turn 12 at that moment, because that is the easiest corner to lock your right front.
I was going to say the lap looked really fluid, but the end result only being a couple of tenths quicker than Hulkenberg. Not to take anything away from Nico's qualifying ability, but you know, the Sauber versus the Red Bull, there's still more tools that he can deploy. Of course, he might not be running absolute engine mode, but in terms of running the lap and exploiting the tyres, I would have expected to see a bit more of an offset for Verstappen.
It's Verstappen, Hulkenberg, then Hadjar, Sainz, Tsunoda, Bortoleto is back out there on an outlap, and Lando Norris is in the left-hand side of your screen. Oliver Bearman has also been very effective in the Haas as well, so much so that Bearman said he couldn't believe the pace of the Haas earlier in the weekend. Well, he's believing it now. He's currently up on Max Verstappen's time. The track improving all the while. Lando Norris over the line, third fastest time, behind Fernando Alonso, behind Max Verstappen, on board with Bearman coming to the end of his rookie season in Formula One. The highlight being a really strong fourth place in the Mexico City Grand Prix.
Flying this weekend, Ollie Bearman. Piastri's done a good first couple of sectors as well. Bearman on the edge of track limits, but good, and he goes to the top.
Bearman top ahead of two contenders for the title. What about the third contender for the title? Early laps in Q1.
That rear axle looked really planted, to the point that he was almost fighting a bit of understeer coming through here, which is so rare at turn 14, but he's got the confidence to attack the entries, Bearman, and it's taken him top.
Interesting, Ocon's been complaining about the car, wasn't in it for the first part of practice.
Piastri goes into second position. Big moment on the exit of the final corner as well for Piastri. Time would have been left on the table there, but he's ahead of both of his rivals for the title. No one can beat Bearman right now.
As we've always said, just look out for Haas.
Here's George Russell, top of FP3, top of Q1 with run number 1. 8 thousandths of a second between the top three.
Yeah, stop the clock there. That is unbelievably close, but it's going to go the whole way down. The exciting thing here is Gasly crosses the line in 10th. He's within 0.3 of a second of Russell, Bearman and Piastri all at the top. The McLarens are not safe from their first run. Norris is just thousandths ahead of Liam Lawson. Who's a front runner and who's a midfielder and who's a tail ender now?
Yeah, well, that's that track evolution that you sort of alluded to. McLaren waiting a little bit longer before doing the first run. Naturally, you would expect this track to continue to evolve right to the last part of this first part of qualifying.
Gasly's had his time deleted. It's for track limits at turn 1, and he loses his 23.5 as a result.
Norris is only 2/10 inside the drop zone. He's up in 7th, but there's not a lot of margin in this. 6/10 separated the entire field minus Jack Doohan, who was making his debut last year, and he was 8/10 away on his debut in an Alpine. So that shows how close we're expecting this to be.
Alpine update, they're struggling to get the car through turn number 1. Colapinto has now had his time deleted. He's got no time on the board. So the two Alpines, 20th and 19th, and then you get to the 18th fastest driver, Charles Leclerc. He's not yet set a run on the soft tyre.
Yeah, look, they don't have the fastest car on average across the year. There's been no development, but what I think I'd advise them to do is start trying at turn 2 if they can't get through turn 1.
That's Colapinto twice, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was Colapinto the first time, fishtailing it. We haven't seen the latest one, but that's why he's used 2 sets of tyres to get no time on the board.
Oliver Bearman was asked where his season changed around, and it was a update for the Haas that he said just made the car more aggressive, that he could take it to the edge in the way that he couldn't in the first half of the season, where the driver currently second on your timing page was statistically the worst qualifier of the year. They brought the update, and suddenly he has reeled off the point-scoring finishes and looked competitive, but this is remarkable, even though it's only Q1.
Yeah, look, the power of having confidence. He was, even after the disappointment of Qatar, where the wheel wasn't put on the car properly at the pit stop, he was still buzzing at his own performance. And, you know, we see this so often in drivers, don't they? The psychology of feeling good, it just unleashes performance overall.
You go on a good run and it feels like you're doing the same thing, the lap time's coming. When it's against you, you feel like you're driving okay, but you're just missing a few tenths the whole time.
Turn 1, Pierre Gasly over the white line, deleted.
Yeah, that was a little bit, well, certainly from that first angle, a little bit closer. But look, they know the rules of the game, and to get it wrong right away at turn 1 seems like, well, Julian, you've got more experience of this racetrack than I. Is there really that much lap time available at 1? It seems like you've got a lot more of this track to use your tyres at.
Right, honestly, does he even look in his mirrors?
Yeah, there was a great.
Liam Lawson on the radio, not happy to find a Ferrari in the way.
Turn 1 is the entire first sector. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about tiny margins, hundredths will make a difference, so they are searching for it. Gasly just had a little left front lock-up. The other thing with turn 1 is, have you got your tyres in the right window when you arrive there? Because it's a 16-turn circuit, and the final sector is really difficult to keep those rear tyre temps down. So often you do a steady outlap, and then you're worried about the fronts necessarily being up, which is why maybe Gasly has the front left lock-up on that first turn. The tyre temps will then really build once you get through the first corner, through 2, 3 and 4 in the high speed, and then you're away for the rest of the lap. But the tyre prep can sometimes mean that you're not completely sure what you have underneath you for that first corner.
The championship contenders are in 3rd, 4th and 7th, but look at the gap between Lando Norris and the drop zone. The contrast between the two Haas drivers as well, one in 2nd and one in 16th.
So I'm reminded of Brazil, the qualifying there, where Behrman was just constantly throwing his car up into the top 3. We kept panning to him in the garage, and he was sort of looking at himself next to a P2 or a P1 and you think, wow, I must be doing something special. But he's on that sort of form again, isn't he? That in Brazil, he didn't hook up a lap in Q3 and left himself with a bit to do on Sunday to get back to 6th place. But it's that sort of day where Behrman is right there with all the big guns.
Yeah, super impressive. His teammate Ocon, of course, a Grand Prix winner. Certainly had plenty of experience. He was on the Mercedes driver program for a period of time, so showed loads of potential. So there is no doubt in my mind that Behrman is a champion in weight. Can't be long until he's in a Ferrari.
That is the talk in the paddock. Ferrari with a pretty decent lineup at the moment, if not a decent year. No Grand Prix win for Ferrari in 2025. The projected knockout time on your screen is a 23.3. Lando Norris has done a 23.4. We're talking about the hurdle that this qualifying hour provides. You've got to find the clean laps when it matters, and he would have known that was coming in Q3. It's also coming in Q1. The field being so tightly packed together invites early pressure for the championship leader.
And what does early pressure look like? It looks like Lando saying to the team, get me out there first. I don't want traffic. I don't want the potential of yellow flags here. He's 7th. There's enough cars that have to improve behind him to knock him out. But with track evolution ramping up, that is very possible if he doesn't improve. So he's got everything under his control, out there on an outlap, and he should have a clear circuit, or at least a circuit with other people on outlaps having to jump out of the way.
Yeah, that's the concern really, isn't it? Because although they should be informed as Lando comes through turn 16 to open his lap, it's Piastri there just coming through 14, he's going to be coming up on some traffic that has just come out of the pit lane. Now, they should get out of the way. But how often did you have someone that seemingly forgot what the mirrors were for?
And the fact that they get a 3-place grid penalty will be no consolation if Norris goes out here. So there's the first of them, that he swings past Liam Lawson at turn 2, and it's a better first sector for Lando, but everyone's going to be improving.
Makes his way around turn number 5. We are heading on the long back straight. Oscar Piastri on the left-hand side. He's got cars that are going to have to peel out of his way as he makes his way to that corner faster. First sector, the Australian driver.
He's a 10th up in the first sector. Did it look to you, DC, like Lando was very cautious on the brakes for that first corner as well?
It did indeed, and yeah, that could be telling once we get to the end of this lap. But What was really impressive, and suggest again that he was a little bit tentative in the brakes, was how early he picked up the power at turn 5. You know, almost what you before what you'd class as the normal apex, that would suggest that he just didn't have the confidence on the initial part of the braking.
I think he's undercooking this through the first 2 sectors. 10th.5 down on Russell's first lap in the session. So we know McLaren have got more pace, and the proof is Piastri being 3/10 now up on Norris through 2 sectors.
Norris potentially leaning on the fact that he has been electric through this final sector all the way through the weekend. Let's see if he finds a big improvement through the final third of the lap. It is an improvement on Russell's time, but he's only 0.06 of a second up. Piastri has the middle sector, the best of anyone so far. And Max Verstappen is at turn number 5 on his push lap as Piastri goes over the line, and Piastri goes fastest by half a second. Fastest of anyone so far in sectors 2 and 3. Job done for Piastri.
Yeah, that is an uncomfortable gap for Norris, given that how, as you said, Julian, just how close this session can end up as we get into the final minute.
No doubt he's driven it conservatively there. How many cars will slot in between them? Not enough to knock Lando out. I think he should still be safely through. It's a really impressive lap from Piastri, you have to say.
His best of the weekend by a mile. Over the line we go with Max Verstappen looking good in the middle sector. Sainz moved up to P3. Antonelli was going nicely, and he's continued that all the way to the end of the lap. Second position, here is George Russell, who was fastest earlier on in practice. He's got 1 corner of the racetrack remaining. He didn't have an improvement in sector 1. A little bit of a correction out of the final corner, and Russell does not find any improvement.
Used tyres, and you could tell that from the way the rears were getting very loose.
Max Verstappen over the line to second position. Piastri, Verstappen, the top 2 at the moment. Charles Leclerc running on the soft tyres for the first time in this session, goes up to 4th position, and now Yuki Tsunoda knows he won't be racing next year, but he comes across the line and he improves up to 10th. It's Stroll, Bortoleto, Ocon and the 2 Alpines in the drop zone.
So Albon has done his final lap and he's through in 12th place, so that's an obvious target that everyone's going to be aiming for. Everyone behind him is still pushing.
Lawson goes over the line and he goes into 9th position. Alonso 2/3 of the lap around, only 100th back on Piastri. At the back though, we're looking at the bottom 5. They will not progress. Gasly gives himself a chance. He's asked an improvement of the Saubers, Stroll, Ocon and the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, who gets up to P10.
Hadjar and Tsunoda are through as well, 11th and 12th, so there's more chances of Hadjar coming under pressure. Tsunoda in the Red Bull now slips to 13th.
Alonso to 4th once again. He is flying this weekend. Now Ocon looking for a response. Gasly is back to the drop zone. He is out in the first part of qualifying. The Saubers have looked so good all the way through practice. They will be looking for strong pace at the moment. Bortoleto is down on Alex Albon's time. Albon has completed Q1. Esteban Ocon is being compared to the Thai driver. Can he find anything in the final sector? He comes across the line and he does find something to get up to 12th.
Hamilton's on the bubble, and I don't know if he's improving much.
He stays in 15th. Can the Saubers knock out Lewis Hamilton? He's gone out in the last 2 consecutive Q1 sessions. Bortoleto comes across the line and knocks out Lewis Hamilton again. Bortoleto to 14th. Hülkenberg is done, and it's Bortoleto who will be the lead Sauber on the grid at the final Grand Prix of the year. Tsunoda in 15th. Scrapes through by 0.08 of a second, and the most successful driver around this circuit with 5 Grand Prix wins falls in the first 5 to go. Hamilton, Albon, Hülkenberg, Gasly and Colapinto are out.
A few of the VIP guests at Ferrari wondering how that's happened for Lewis. He must have made a mistake in the final sector. The first 2/3 of his lap were good enough to be comfortably through, but the final sector was a long way adrift.
Yeah, look, when we cut to that image of all the VIPs in that part of the garage, it almost looked like a waxworks. Everyone was too scared to move, just trying to figure out what has happened, because the opening part of the session, Hamilton, car seemed in a window, he seemed reasonably confident.
That's up P16, I'm afraid.
Every time I'm so sorry.
Would that suggest a mistake by Lewis if he's apologising?
He's talked about what needs to change for next year, processes, some departments at Ferrari, some reorganisation. It's a huge winter for Hamilton and the Scuderia, because a combination that everyone was so excited about will finish the triple header that closes out the year with 3 Q1 eliminations in a row, and it wasn't by much, but he is out again at the first hurdle.
Yeah, it's just over 2 tenths away from his teammate, who's in 5th. Bafflingly close, and I'm sure that is in the final sector and a bit more. He was going really well through the first couple of sectors there. Sonoda scrapes through then in his final qualifying, maybe ever, but at least for a while. 8 thousandths the margin that he had.
Yeah, there was many a qualifying where if I was within a couple of tenths of my teammate, I was reasonably satisfied ahead of the race. It's just mind-boggling how close Formula One is right now.
7 tenths of a second between making it through and heading out, and then you're into the hundredths, then you're into the thousandths. Hamilton Albon in 17th, one of the stars of the first part of the season, the driver who sits 8th in the Drivers' Championship, best of the rest, has seen Sainz close within 9 points of him in recent times after some really strong results, finds himself out again. He was hoping to score his first Grand Prix points in 7 races this weekend. It's going to be hard from 17th on the grid. Let's get some analysis now with James Hinchcliffe and Juan Pablo Montoya.
Guys, Q1 margins, oh so small. Some surprise dropouts there. We talked at the top of the show about the genuine pace of those Sauber cars. Nico Hulkenberg going out in Q1. And one, the times were so tight there from 11th to 16th in the same 10th of a second. And unfortunately, Lewis Hamilton was at the bottom of that 10th and finds himself out.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy because, you know, as you said, it's so close. It's not that far off or anything, but at this level, end of the year, you know what I mean, it's the end of a generation of a car. Everybody's doing it right, and small mistakes, we're going to see it here.
So here you go, into turn 12, just a little bit too wide.
It's what we talked about. I was, you know, watch practice there, and that's it. He's trying to do more than he needs to, and it's understandable because he didn't have a good practice. You know, he missed practice 1, and then the accident and everything. It's just, it's tough. And as well, the Saubers kind of, I don't know if they were like showing way too much in practice because they looked quite good and they're not.
How difficult is it for Hamilton after missing FP1, crashing in FP2, or FP3 rather, getting back into the car and knowing that he made a mistake that would have cost him, you know, clearly more than a 10th, enough to transfer? How difficult is that for him right now?
You know what's painful? He's not that far from Charles, and there's a really good chance Charles is going to be in Q3, so he looks even worse than what it actually is.
Margins are as tight as we predicted they were going to be before this qualifying session started. Still 2 rounds to go, guys. It's not going to get any more spread out. It's going to be tight all the way through.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Juan Pablo. Yeah, the intensity is going to continue in this final qualifying session of the season. Alex Brundle, back in the studio, has been having a look at the championship leaders' lap.
Yes, Jakesy, you guys both noted Lando Norris relatively conservative on his eventual lap. I think I've got a reason for you as to why. This is his banker lap at the beginning of Q1, gets down towards this first apex and then loses the rear of his McLaren. This is worth 0.3 of a second for Lando Norris in this first sector at the time, and might be the reason why he was so conservative when he eventually was able to deliver at the end of Q1. He won't be able to afford that kind of margin in the later areas of qualifying. Back to you.
Thank you, Alex. We are building up to the second part of qualifying. 15 drivers continue on, including all 3 contenders for the title.
Should give some credit to the backroom team at F1 for correctly getting the cutoff being a 23.3.
Christmas bonus, guys.
Amazing work. So
Round
that
of
means
applause.
if Norris hadn't have improved that final lap, he would have been out. The easiest way to not improve is to get track limits, as Alpine beautifully showed us in Q1. So you have to go a little bit conservative.
I never doubted the team, Julian. Now, did you?
No.
Under the bus.
DC empowers people. It's what he's all about. Here we go again. Second part of the qualifying session, straight out. The reigning world champion. He's had some special nights around here as a race winner, as a championship winner. He's on 396 points going out there early when he went past Oscar Piastri at the end of the Qatar Grand Prix in the championship standings. It's the first time since April he'd been ahead of one of the McLaren drivers. It has been a roaring comeback that has got him within 12 points of the championship lead, and he's decided to hog the racetrack to himself early on. He's gone out there very, very early at the first part of Q2.
Banker lap time for Max. Used set of tyres, carrying over a set from Q1. And I just get that, it's that sort of session where every time, now we're into Q2, but the same pressure is going to apply. Now you've got to be in the top 10. So
it's relentless.
When the field is this close, it really is. You've got Hamilton making a little mistake. I thought the mistake would look bigger for Lewis at turn 12, but that was enough to cost him a chance to get through. Hulkenberg, we've been waxing lyrical about Sauber this weekend. Out he goes in 18th position, again within a 10th of getting through. So these pressures are going to keep coming up, and particularly for Norris, who feels like, I'm sure he's got everything to lose. Piastri and Verstappen just going for it and trying to get themselves on pole position, whereas Lando maybe playing a little bit cautious in that Q1.
Well, just give me your point of view on this. This is a sort of circuit where you've got time to think, which means you've got time to overthink. It's a sort of smash in a tennis match, isn't it? You know, it's an easy one for them to get over the net, and they actually punch it into the net.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the nightmare when you've got such a big qualifying at stake here. It's the braking zones, isn't it? It's when you're coming up, even this run to turn 5, brake, stop the car, rotate it, and then the exit. So making sure that you hit the brakes right, but then making sure when you go for the throttle, now you're unleashed onto a really long straight, building up to beyond 200 miles per hour twice. If you have an oversteer, snap, that's going to delay you getting on throttle. It's a similar mistake.
It is the sweetest feeling when the car does exactly what you anticipated it would, as you roll off the brakes, head to the apex, especially in these longer corners. It's that moment of being at one with the machine.
And that on the top right of Max's dash here is his delta lap time compared to what he's done on new tyres in Q1. So I'm surprised. Well, his visor cam here, so we can see kind of where he's tracking, but just relatively straightforward. But his eyes underneath it, I'm sure, will be glancing down to see that delta time between the corners on those straights to see, are you on a good lap? Are you not? Do you need to really dig in and find something in sector 3?
It's interesting, the psychology of certain drivers don't want a reference lap. They just want to drive, and others, as you say, will be glancing at it, you know, every moment when they leave a corner.
What were you?
I went through all sorts of phases. I went through wanting to know, and then I went, well, that isn't working, so let's put some tank tape over that part of the screen. And that didn't work. So in the end, I just concentrated on the journey.
Lando Norris has changed that mid-season. He's got rid of the delta time from the steering wheel, so just focusing on the task in hand. Jolyon, what did you go for?
I kept the delta time. I love the delta time. I'm a numbers guy. What can I say? And again, I don't know if it helped me or not, but I enjoyed looking at the numbers as I was going around.
We can hear the passion, I should say, in your voice there. You loved the delta time. Well, the wonderful thing about this sport is defined by two things, isn't it? That delta time, that stopwatch, and the checkered flag. Everything else is what we're here for, opinions.
Oliver Behrman trying to keep the momentum going. Driver who has out-qualified and outscored his Grand Prix winning teammate so far this season, and he did in the last Grand Prix see his 5-race run in the points come to an end, but he will be delighted to have outscored Ocon 41.32, and he's out-qualified him 14.9 in their head-to-head battle. And talking of head-to-head battles, Gabriel Bortoleto ties Nico Hulkenberg 12 all. And I don't think there would have been many people predicting that at the start of the campaign for the F1 rookie.
And Haas were looking over their shoulder at Sauber after yesterday. Championship battles still. Sauber breathing down Haas's neck, who are breathing down Aston Martin's. All of these to play out as well tomorrow is just lesser talked about, I guess, this week. But that's a good start for Haas to lose one of the Sauber cars from the session. The other thing I was interested in is how much road Max uses out of the final corner. Saw it in Q1 when you needed a magnifying glass to see if he was in track limits or not. The same thing happened on that last lap as well. He is so perfectly on the edge of track limits, maximising the width but not going over it.
Kimi Antonelli is fast of anyone through the first sector. Sainz not too far away from Verstappen on the old tyres. This is new tyres for the Haas's being compared to old tyres for Max Verstappen.
Conversely, if you saw Behrman out of the final corner there, he's been very quick so far. That wasn't his best lap on used tyres, but he had a lot of margin to play with.
And if you think back to last year, Max Verstappen nearly threw it into the pit wall from that final corner, trying to use all of the road there. That left him 4th on the grid. This is the corner that we're talking about. And Sainz goes over the line and goes 2nd fastest, ahead of the 2 Hasses, who he was worried about when he was talking after practice. He was worried about the Hasses, he was worried about the Saubers, and he's gone ahead of Ocon and Behrman. Antonelli is in 4th position now, one of the qualifying stars of the season. Isaac Hadjar goes into 4th place, on board with George Russell, chasing a record 10th podium in a Formula One season this weekend, and of course dreaming of way more than that. He's never won more than 2 Grand Prix in a single campaign. He's currently fastest.
Not by much though, really, considering that was a new set of softs in comparison to Verstappen's used sets. So I think Verstappen will be feeling reasonably good with that opening run.
That's the final corner and the movement of the car that everyone's been highlighting to you. Charles Leclerc goes behind Esteban Ocon. Fernando Alonso's been relishing his time around this circuit, and he's ahead of his teammate. It's been that way since the British Grand Prix last season when it comes to Grand Prix qualifying. On board for the Australian driver Oscar Piastri mainframe, left-hand side of your screen is Lando Norris.
Used tyres for both McLarens. So Russell's the big-name driver that's gone for the new tyres at this stage. He's actually slower than the lap that Piastri managed in Q1 by 1/10 of a second. So there's more margin in there, but again, they're going to be under pressure for the final laps of Q2.
Over the line we go with Oscar Piastri, 6 times on pole position this year, and he improved in that final sector. Here is the championship leader on 408 points after 23 rounds. Lando Norris dips down the hill and moves into 2nd place. Russell, Norris, and then this man, Max Verstappen. And Verstappen pushing on, going for another run. He's made his way to turn number 7.
So he's done a cool lap after that initial lap, as far as I can see, and he's going again. Get a nice toe on that back straight there from Alonso. Pulls out of the way, allowing him to stay on the clean part of the track.
What a lovely run from a non-teammate that's really helped him out there on that back straight. Same set of tyres, but he's been through the pit, so I wonder if there's a front wing adjust and they want to figure something out still on this Q1 set of tyres for Max, and then it will stick on some new boots at the end of Q2.
He's improving though, so green sectors not best overall, but this final corner that you highlighted, Julian, just how much of the track he uses.
And he improves up to 2nd position, ahead of both McLarens, 0.02 of a second away from George Russell. And Lando Norris's mum watching on. Norris and Piastri both have their families here this weekend and friends as well. Max Verstappen said that there weren't many plans made after Zandvoort when he was 104 points behind the championship lead. He's treating it like just any other race. If you can do that with a 5th world title on the line. This was a big moment for Charles Leclerc. It looked big trackside. It looks a minor correction. You see how close he comes to lighting up the rear tyres. He gathers it together, and 10th position must have been on old tyres, and he was.
Just a hesitation on throttle rather than having to back out of it fully. It's also a very short run out of that final turn to cross the timing line, so it wouldn't have cost him that much.
Yeah, the temptation to just floor it, isn't it, as you're desperately trying to get thousands or margins of your lap time, and well, those track limits wait. He doesn't look like he's got despair in his eyes. I think he'll be quite glad to see the back end of this season.
Yeah, it's been a campaign that rewarded him with 1 pole position back in Budapest, 14th round of the season. This is round 24. No win, though, for Charles Leclerc. He will hope that we get one of those absolutely chaotic championship deciders and he can somehow get into the mix, but he is staring at another winless season with Ferrari. That'd be the 4th time in 7 seasons he's gone winless with Ferrari.
Just remind me the other sort of chaotic ones. Clearly 21 would stand out there as a very unusual end to a Grand Prix, but other ones, I guess we have to go way back to when Vettel, Webber, Alonso was leading the championship.
The last time we had 3 drivers or more in contention.
2016 was punchy, wasn't it? Just with the 2 Mercedes. Hamilton leading, trying to back Rosberg into various attackers to try and help him out. I wonder if Max might try something similar if there's a train of cars behind him and he's leading.
He was in that queue that day. Hamilton backing Rosberg into the path of Vettel and Verstappen. Not a bad four-car train when it comes to the history of Formula One.
Who would you want snapping at your heels if you're Max? Wait for someone like Fernando to be there?
Well, it's looked possible. Fernando Alonso's been at the smart end of the timing pages all the way through the practice sessions so far this week. We're into final run of Q2 time. George Russell again maintaining his practice form into qualifying. Verstappen there along with Norris, along with Piastri. And there is a lot of support for all three contenders in the grandstands of Abu Dhabi.
I often think it must be a little bit frustrating when you're just having to crawl out of the end of the pit lane. They factor in the amount of time it will take them. They're not as sensitive to losing tyre temperature with the high pressures that they run in the cars, but it just disrupts your flow, doesn't it? You know, the garage is kind of like a safe haven. No one can get to you, and then when you're out in the pit lane, you're at the mercy of the actions of those in front.
You want to just get going as well. I used to not enjoy these out laps, checking the temperatures, making sure everything's okay. Just want to fast forward and just put me at the final corner, ready to launch into the flying lap.
You're the guy that opens a Christmas present on 24th, aren't you, at midnight? You just want to get on with it.
Talking getting on with it, Valtteri Bottas can't wait for this year to be over and for next year to begin. He'll be back on the grid with the new Cadillac team, joining Formula One at the start of 2026. After Leclerc was out in FP1, racing with his brother in that session for the second year in a row, only for his brother to spin at this turn 5, and he was the next car on track, saying he's doing some donuts for the Tifosi. There's always a sibling around to give you a little piece of advice. We have under 3 minutes to go, and we are ready to see the cars perform with the knockout time at a 23.0, the projected time for you. And for reference, that would worry Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris has done a 22.8. Max Verstappen has done a 22.7. Charles Leclerc all over the road, first turn of the racetrack.
Did he keep it on?
He did. It was lively as anything as he tried to make sure he didn't go over track limits. I think he was on the white line, but it's not quick, look. And Leclerc is 10th and has to now pick it up for the next two sectors, has to regroup. That would have been a bit heart in mouth because you can just blow the lap straight away.
Yeah, we've seen it, haven't we, with those going beyond track limits and well, visibly smoking that Ferrari as he runs into turn 5, signs that they're dragging the plank. Not that we're concerned on this particular Grand Prix that anyone would be below the minimums, but loads of friction on that Ferrari.
Sainz has done the fastest first sector of anyone who has started a lap so far. Charles Leclerc in 10th position needs the improvement. He's getting closer to Russell's benchmark. The projected knockout time was a 23.0. Russell did a 22.7. You see how much Yuki Tsunoda is gaining up against Charles Leclerc as well. So improvement needed for the Ferrari driver. Always takes qualifying on the edge, and DC's leaning back in the commentary box as he roars through that third and final sector. The lap's nearly complete for Charles Leclerc. What's the time on the board? He's hung on to it and he's gone 4th.
Yeah, look, it's beautiful to see full send, full commitment, and that's exactly what we witnessed as he came through that final part of the hotel section.
Yuki Tsunoda goes up to P6. Here's Kimi Antonelli to go into 8th position. Not the improvement he was looking for. If you compare him to Yuki Tsunoda, Sainz using a lot of the road as well. Gabriel Bortoleto has come alive with P4.
The margins are ridiculously small between everyone.
Carlos Sainz around the final corner, ahead of Antonelli, who's in danger here.
Behrman's 14th, but hasn't run new tyres, so he's a big threat of someone that has the pace to get through. Lawson improves and Antonelli's out.
Lawson up to 10th position. What about the second Racing Bulls? Isaac Hadjar is heading to Red Bull next year to be Max Verstappen's teammate, and qualifying performances like that tell you why. P6 for the man trying to book his place in the top 10 shootout. Ocon gets to 8th. Alonso now on the brink. Sainz is in 11th. Lawson is in 12th. Antonelli is in 13th. Stroll 14th. What can Behrman do? Here is Fernando Alonso, P10 at the moment. Ocon has gone over the line to complete his session. Alonso trying to improve and mix it at the front like he has done all weekend long, and he manages to get up to 4th again. Strong weekend for one driver. Here's another man who's been having a really good run. Behrman gets to 11th and he misses out by 7 thousandths of a second. Yuki Tsunoda in P10. Behrman misses out, then it's Sainz, Lawson and Tonelli. And Stroll as Yuki makes the top 10 shootout along with Esteban Ocon, and that is a turn up. Ocon manages to find 9th place, Behrman in 11th, and our championship contenders are all through.
Man, I don't understand. I've no rear again.
3.5 tenths away. His teammate's top and he's 14th. Behrman will be gutted. The confidence he's had has been running through the weekend to the point that he ran a used tyre like the big dogs at the start of Q2. So he only had one set of new boots. Ocon, conversely, thought he'd have a less of a chance to make it through and went for 2. And that banker lap just gave him the confidence, whereas Behrman had to do it all in one and didn't do enough. This was an amazing lap, wasn't it, for Leclerc?
Yeah, beautiful commitment, just keeps his front axle inside that white line, but that's the sort of commitment that he's been famous for. One of the great qualifiers in his Formula 1 career. Yuki there a lot tidier through the turn. I reckon Sainz is just going to be close to pegging track limits. Well, it's all about that front axle, did it stay in or not? But I'm just going to raise, I think Sainz might feel that he didn't get the clear run to the end of the lap. I think it was one of the McLarens who was getting ready to launch its lap.
That's Kimi Antonelli, who's not made it through. 14th position, and his rookie season will close out from 14th on the grid. Disappointment for Behrman, who's missed out by 7 thousandths of a second. And back to the pits he comes. Russell was top again, and he's having a very strong Saturday. Verstappen, then Norris, 700 separating the top 3.
Congrats. That's all I have. Oh, that was the right time to put it together. Thank you. You are safe. Yes. Negative. Yes.
So did we say it was 8 thousandths that Yuki beat Lewis in Q1? So he's now 7 thousandths ahead of Ollie Behrman, 8 thousandths ahead of Carlos Sainz. Tiny margins, but in his final qualifying at the moment, Tsunoda has scraped all the way through into Q3, and he's not far off Max. To be in the top 10, you have to be just a few tenths away from the quickest.
Let's hear now from James Hinchcliffe and Juan Pablo Montoya.
What a difference a qualifying segment can make. Oscar Piastri comfortably ahead of Lando Norris in Q1, but now about a quarter of a second down on his teammate, even a little bit more than that on George Russell, who was P1 in that session. And Juan, Piastri is basically in a must-win situation if he's going to keep his championship hopes alive at all. Being that much off your teammate, being that much off pole after Q2, what's the mindset of Oscar right now sitting in the garage?
It's 2 scenarios. Either he made a mistake or he's going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And the hard thing is so close. It's so close between everybody that, as you said, the championship is not as clear as we thought. You know, we're talking about 3 cars and 3 cars, but it's must do or die. The problem when you go must do or die, the mistakes come. When you get out of your comfort zone, yes, you're pushing 110%, but you normally know how far. You know, when you're a driver, I got this. But when I got this is not good enough, and it's the championship, you need to you need to step up.
In between the qualifying sessions, there's not a lot of time. There's a little bit of time to maybe make a small adjustment to the car, maybe look at some data from Norris to see where you can find that time. Where can Oscar find 3/10ths?
I bet you it's a little bit of the timing through the hotel and everything. It's just what we talked about, turn 12. You know, it's going to look at the data, and it's probably a little bit behind in turn 12, and you go, oh, okay, maybe a little, you need more on the brake, and you're thinking, okay, but if I go more on the braking when I turn, if I still got a little bit of brake pressure, I'm going to miss the corner. And the problem at that point is, if you don't get that lap in, then you're in trouble. So you get 2 laps in Q3. That first lap, that what we call the banker lap, it needs to be a mega lap. If you do a really good job in the banker lap, then you can go for broke in the second lap.
Well, look, a lot changed between Q1 and Q2. All three of our championship contenders have made it to Q3. Let's see how it shakes out here in just a few minutes' time.
Thank you, James. We are building up to the top 10 shootout, the final Grand Prix of the year. Alex Brundle, take us through the laps of the contenders.
Two championship protagonists, second and third in Q2, only half a tenth of a second between the two of them. A reminder, 12 of the last 12 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix have been won from the front row of the grid. It's a circuit of two halves between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Max Verstappen really strong in this first half of the lap. You can see all the time gains in that first sector, and also just has a tiny bit more straight line speed to play with. You can see the Red Bull gains almost a tenth of a second in a straight line for Max Verstappen. With this little bit of extra straight line speed, the Red Bull's line peaking above the McLaren's line. But look at that final sector for Lando Norris, grabbing time back all the way through the turns in 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. So expect to see a mega first sector from Max Verstappen. Expect to see Lando Norris try and claw that time back in Q3. Expect them to both to have to beat George Russell, who ended Q2 on top. It's going to be a thrilling final phase, an incredibly important final phase of qualifying.
Thank you, Alex. Here we go, everyone. The championship battle is about to experience a really important run of 12 minutes. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, all battling for pole position. George Russell not interested in the championship, interested in his third pole of the year.
So this is what it all builds up to. They've managed to safely get their way through into Q3. Oscar was 200ths quicker than Ollie Behrman, who's out in Q2 there. That was marginal for him. He has still got the fastest time of the whole qualifying, which he did in Q1. So there's pace in there for McLaren. But they've used an extra set of soft tyres that Max managed to save in Q2 there. So Max never went out in Q2 on a brand new set of tyres. So I think they might have to go on a scrub set here.
Which, as we saw from Max Verstappen, if it's about just checking where track evolution is, setting a banker, that shouldn't be a problem. And it tends to be all about that final set of tyres.
But then you've got no banker on the board and an absolute heap of pressure.
This is the moment where we will decide the grid for the final Grand Prix of the year. Max Verstappen is on an out lap. Yuki Tsunoda is the first car out. And then it is Bortoleto and Esteban Ocon who you're looking at. He's made his way into Q3. Big for Ocon. Been a while since he could say that. He didn't have a Q3 appearance since the Monaco Grand Prix. That's why I called it a turn-up a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, as we had that image of Katy Perry at the back of the McLaren garage, she was sort of mouthing the words, "Baby, you're a firework."
I knew you were going to do it, lyric.
I couldn't help it, guys.
I could see it in your eyes.
All the positive energy is required. Anything that gives them an edge at this stage.
It's about delivering for the drivers. Here is the championship leader, 408 points, 7 times on pole position this year, 7 Grand Prix victories, the most podiums of anyone in the field for 2025.
Out on a
I'm feeling a little nervous today.
Piastri will be the same. They've gone conservative in this qualifying. They had to use 2 sets of new tyres to get through Q1. They weren't safe with where they're at. And I said Lando had to improve, otherwise he would have been knocked out. And McLaren went cautious. They've then used new tyres to get, as a banker at the end. They've not done a fully fledged flying lap. They obviously saw that they were going to be safe and bailed out. But this is not a brand new set of tyres. It's one that's had a heat cycle on the car now.
And that is in sharp contrast to Max Verstappen, who is on brand new soft tyres. He's made his way through as efficiently as possible, and he can wind it up looking for another pole position around this circuit. And he had 4 in a row until last year, and he dropped it out of the final corner, and he started in 4th. He's chasing a 5th pole around here and a 5th World Championship. This is his first effort in Q3.
Yeah, you just don't want to give any potential advantage to Max Verstappen, do you? And that's exactly what the scenario is now, is he's got 2 runs on these fresh tyres.
So does George Russell, so does Charles Leclerc, amazingly, in the Ferrari as well. They've gone brave and gotten away with it. And Verstappen's first sector is massive there. It's a really good first sector.
It's a 16.8. It is the best that we have seen through the first few turns of the racetrack. 1, 2, 3 and 4 comprise the first sector.
And he's got Yuki Tsunoda just ahead of him coming out of turn 7. So are we about to see as he goes a bit deep, maybe into 6, but he's going to get a slipstream, I think, on this back straight.
Let's see where the Red Bull play the team game. It was crucial that Yuki Tsunoda made it through. He only made it through by thousandths of a second, but Red Bull are playing team tactics. They're using the driver that they demoted in the middle of the week to get a slipstream for Max Verstappen, who's looking to put a time on the board that gives the McLarens an enormous amount of work to do. Left-hand side of your screen, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, both drivers trying to take the crown of this man, who's having a great first run.
First 2 sectors are nailed on for Max, and he's had the slipstream. 1 corner to go.
He's going to put a time on the board. The McLarens will respond using all the curb and a bit more. Max Verstappen with a 22.2 to try and claim pole position later on. Let's see what Norris can do as we go on board with the championship leader.
It's a massive lap from Max. It's absolutely massive. He's 3 tenths quicker than anyone's managed all weekend long at crunch time.
Right on that limit that you said coming out of the final corner. We both sat back there, but that's the sort of commitment it's going to take. So we expect this to be a little bit shy on these scrub tyres.
How close can he get on used tyres? He will get a go on fresh, and he goes into second, but he's got 4.5 tenths of a second to make up when he bolts on the new set. It was always going to be a pressure lap. That pressure has just increased. To Oscar Piastri, a driver on pole position in Formula 1 2025 6 times, trying to haul himself back into contention, 16 points back. He really needs to be ahead of both rivals for the title. What can he do now as he hits the loud pedal, comes across the line, and he's ahead of Lando Norris? It's Verstappen, Piastri and Norris. What about George Russell? He's on new tyres.
Tidy through the first 2 sectors, but nowhere near Verstappen, who's in a league of his own on this first run.
Oh, catching it and staying out of the Armco barrier, and none of us are sure how. George Russell catching it, keeping the lap going, but crucially, it's 5th, and the McLarens are 2nd and 3rd. Russell continues his lap and kept it out of the wall. It's on a knife edge in Abu Dhabi.
Well, if there was a world championship for catches, he just got it, because we are all synchronized in our belief that that was going to the Armco barrier.
Let's have a look at this again. George Russell heading under the hotel.
I was heart in mouth as this one went. It's such a big load of opposite lock that he has to apply. So he's trying to get back on the gas and not have to have the big save, but then it was still going, wasn't it? So he had to get off it in the end and save himself. It's a beautiful catch right up to the barriers. That's the easiest place to actually bin the car.
Get him in the England cricket team. That was catch and a half from George Russell. The 2 next to me, by the way, watching at home, convinced that was in the Armco, convinced that lap was gone. And that could change everything when it comes to the World Championship. He's still got a chance to mix it with the McLarens here.
Yeah, Russell's not out. That's definitely caught his attention, but he's got another set of tyres, and he's been showing good pace. As we saw the opening of that lap there, struggling with the rear tyres, not, I guess, with the scrub, but they weren't quite in the right window.
Yeah, and then what's it like when he gets to turn 1? It's still not quite there on the rear, so they're trying to start pretty cold, so you've still got that rear grip at the end, which Russell didn't really have. But it's not there for Norris on the scrub tyre. It will change on the new, but hey, this is what we were talking about. Having that banker lap is really what Norris needed to try and take some pressure off. He's not got it. Verstappen now is in such a good position. Red Bull have played the team game beautifully. Tsunoda went out, didn't do a time, just literally dragged Max down the straight a little bit and parked it up again. He could do the same again on this next run.
And he can do it better. I think he was a bit further ahead than maybe would have been ideal, but they've got that, haven't they? They've got the chance, and look, this qualifying session is still open, but psychologically that gives Max such an advantage now.
Max Verstappen chasing his 8th pole position of the season. He has a big buffer after the first run. Yuki Tsunoda has gone out in Q1 of the last 3 sessions before today. He made Q3. It's crucial that he did so. And it's Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, and then Leclerc, Russell, Bortoleto. And let's have a look at the tow once again. The slipstream provided by his teammate for Max Verstappen.
Really good tow here, really good tow. Wait for him. Get your meters.
It could have been a lot better. Nice from Yuki. You want him sitting just in front of you at this stage. He's a little bit too distant.
This is absolutely within the team game, and yeah, some room for improvement on that.
It was an unbelievable lap from Max, though. New tyres, so he had a bit of a gain there, but then still managed to hook up the first sector unaided. Was huge. Managed to keep it in for the final sector. Piastri's actually the fastest man through there, where McLaren have been strong. But yeah, Yuki definitely can give him another 10th with a better tow. The track will get better. And credit to Yuki for making Q3, as you said. Those tiny margins, 8,000, 7,000 as Yuki heads out, they have put Red Bull in a position to use him to give Max a better chance of the title.
Look how relaxed the team principal is, Laurent.
Try and get me behind Verstappen on his in lap. He'll probably give me a tow.
Russell thinking tactically.
That's great, actually. That's great thinking, because Max is smart enough to realise where his main championship battle is.
So Yuki's gone early, and he will do a flying lap. He was on a new set of tyres, I think. Will do a flying lap and then get time on the board and then line up to try and help Max.
So George Russell thinking tactically for any benefit he can get, wants to leave the pits in a position to benefit from Max Verstappen, who will, they all hear the team radio as well, that chatter will be relayed to the Red Bull team. Piastri and Norris, it's been a challenging qualifying hour so far. Second and third going in to the final minutes of Formula One qualifying.
So Max has got to wait for Yuki to start his lap and then be in a position. Here he goes now. So he's in a position, he'll have to let Yuki through and then get the payback. And George goes out right behind Max, so it won't be on Max's cool-down lap. He'll have to just follow him around.
Yeah, and Max will be very aware of Mercedes' tactic to be last car out.
What's Yuki going to do? Tow Max down towards turn 6 and then tow George down towards turn 9. They have to try and help out one of their rivals, don't they? And Max has done such a good lap there that he's given himself and the team confidence that that'll take some beating.
The team have looked at it, and that tow gained Max Verstappen half a 10th, so there was more in it. But it is worth saying that they did demote Yuki Tsunoda to a test driver earlier this week, and he's playing the team game in a rough week for his career. Okay, 2-minute warning, all on the line now for all three championship contenders. Advantage Max Verstappen. Now, Verstappen must be on the podium to have any chance of winning the Formula One World Championship tomorrow night. Oscar Piastri has to be in the top 2 to have any chance of winning the championship tomorrow night. And if Lando Norris finishes where he currently occupies, no matter what the other two do, it's his title in 2025. But George Russell has been quick all the way through this hour, and Charles Leclerc gets another run on new tyres as well.
Imagine the pressure here on both McLaren drivers, but particularly Lando Norris, who's out behind Oscar. He's going to take a little bit more track evolution than his teammate, but it's by marginal, you know, it's a 1,000th or 2. Leclerc, Russell, a few others will have a shot at trying to improve as well. That is a beatable time that he's got on the board. If he's top 3, he'll get away with it maybe for tomorrow's start where he needs to finish, but if he's any worse, then that starts to be a headache for McLaren.
Well, this is where the journey begins for Piastri. Can he nail this first corner? It's going to be needed when we look at Verstappen's sector there, and that was tidy.
Look good for Oscar Piastri. We'll get a read on the sector time in a few moments' time. It's not a long first sector of the lap. On board with Lando Norris behind. He's cleanly through the first turn as well. 400ths down on Max Verstappen's first sector for Oscar Piastri. A reminder for you that McLaren is superb through the third and final sector of the racetrack.
Norris's first sector is very good as well, so both McLarens are through the kind of complex track limits area, but Verstappen's improved on his own best, so he's still Still up, but there's less than a tenth in it.
The three contenders battling it out for pole position at the final Grand Prix of the year. Verstappen with provisional pole and the fastest first sector so far in this session. Piastri now comes through turn number 9 and he's 2/10 down on Verstappen's best.
Yeah, Russell also got a good first sector, so let's keep an eye on where the Mercedes comes in this battle.
Norris is close with his teammates' effort, but he can't get close to Max Verstappen.
The McLaren's really good in the final sector, though, so this is going to tighten up. Verstappen's going quicker even still.
Charles Leclerc gets to third. Charles Leclerc moves to third position. Huge pressure on these corners from the McLaren drivers. Over the line for Piastri, who finds himself with the fastest final sector. He gets into second position with his best time. What can Lando Norris do? Huge moment in the World Championship. Norris gets to second place. He improves to the front row. Max Verstappen, though, on run number 2, on fire again, on pole position again, and the McLarens can't deny him, but George Russell's nearly dropped it out of the final corner. He's in 4th place. He gave it everything, and our top 3 contenders for the title are in the top 3 positions on the grid. Max Verstappen with his 8th pole of the year. He is the driver. The McLarens will go racing for the win in Abu Dhabi. He's lit it up in Abu Dhabi. He's taken pole for the final Grand Prix of the season.
That's 2 pole position laps, Max. It's a good start.
Let's go, guys. That was insane. Yes. Lovely.
Well, from the understatement of the year from his engineer GP to how much that means to him, the waving to the crowd. You don't often see that from Max Verstappen, but he has just found form when it really matters.
What execution from Red Bull as well. Across the team, using Yuki. Max hooking it up over both laps. The car obviously getting into a really good window, and he's managed to put it on pole. Good effort, you have to say, from Norris to find that final lap under pressure. I think George Russell must have heard you talking about a World Championship for catches, DC.
That's P3. P3. That sets you up nicely for tomorrow.
Yeah, nicely done. Wasn't much left in that one, so thanks. Car was pretty good.
0.03 of a second away from his teammates. Both McLarens 0.2 of a second away. Hang on to it, everyone. Here we go, round the final corner with George Russell.
Well, that was a full opposite lock, so he's improving on his last catch.
This would have put him right there with the 2 McLarens. Did he go over track limits? I don't think he did. I think there was always one wheel within the white, or on the white line.
He's like a slinky, wasn't he? He's like, you know, the rear was out, the front was in, the front was out, the rear was in.
Well, it's his first Grand Prix pole position since Austin 5 races ago. It's his 5th around this circuit. He's chasing title number 5, and the last 12 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix have been won from pole position. Still in the fight, Max Verstappen is going to push the McLarens all the way, and he starts the final race of the season from pole. It's still game on for the title in Abu Dhabi. McLaren 2nd with Lando Norris and 3rd with Oscar Piastri. We will see you tomorrow night, because the top 3 contenders for the title are in the top 3 positions. It is so well poised when it matters with the World Championship on the line. And we have Oscar Piastri gathering it together. The Q2 incident, Piastri, Norris and Antonelli, no further action. That's for the Delta time. And Piastri told by his engineer, Tom Stallard, sets you up well. And the top 2 in the World Championship are on the front row. Kelly Piquet embracing Max Verstappen. And when Verstappen's punching the air, you know that he still believes it can be his year and he can complete the greatest Formula One comeback in the history of the championship. No one has ever come from 104 points back.
Well, he's done everything he possibly can now to put the pressure on McLaren. They've done well to be second and third. George Russell is going to be maybe an ally for Max tomorrow. Has a chance to get his hat into the ring for that podium spot. And he is probably the guy that Max really wants there, because we've seen him be aggressive in the past. Think back to Austin in the sprint when he lunged Max from about 4 car lengths back. And he wants to end the season on with a podium. Leclerc in 5th as well. Ferrari having a solid effort in the end.
Zach Brown saying well done to Max Verstappen. He's taken pole. Zach Brown congratulating both of his drivers. And it's set up so well with the top 3 in the battle, on the top 3 on the grid. George Russell, nothing to lose from 4th place. Certainly drove that qualifying session like he had nothing to lose. Hair-raising stuff from George Russell. Charles Leclerc in 5th, Fernando Alonso ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto, who got up to 7th in the end. We were focusing on the championship battle, but that's a fine way to finish off qualifying in your rookie campaign for the Brazilian driver. Esteban Ocon in 8th, and Isaac Hadjar in 9th position. Yuki Tsunoda playing the team game very, very helpfully on that first run. It was worth half a 10th for him. Okay, James Hinchcliffe is speaking to the top 3.
Joined here by your top 3, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. Max, first of all, congratulations, 48th career pole. You found an enormous amount of lap time in Q3 there. Where did that come from?
Well, in Q2, I stayed on scrub tires, and I think those laps already felt quite decent. And because then in Q3 around here, you know, track time is coming down, you know that you can push a bit more, and that's exactly what we did. We found a bit more lap time, and of course, incredibly happy to be in first. That's the only thing that we can do, right? That's the only thing that we can control, try to just maximize everything we have and then what we can with the car. And we definitely did that in qualifying.
Max, conditions in P3 were so different from what you see in qualifying. What's the challenge like for you and your engineers to decide what changes to make to the car, knowing that when you get on track in qualifying, it's going to be so different than what you saw in practice?
Yeah, you have to, of course, try and guess a little bit how much the track is going to improve. Of course, it cools down a lot. But you're never like 100% sure if it's going to work. But I do think that what we changed definitely helped me a little bit more to feel better in qualifying.
Very good. All right, Lando Norris starts outside of the front row. You guys are really kind of writing this script for us, all 3 of you starting 1, 2, 3. Lando, you're ahead of one championship rival, behind the other. Are you satisfied with how you did out there? Did you leave anything on the table?
Well, it's tough. I mean, Max did a good job, so congrats to him. We did everything we could. I think my lap was pretty good. I was pretty happy. So, yeah, of course, disappointed to not be on pole for the final weekend, but we just weren't fast enough today. So we'll have to try to do it tomorrow.
A podium tomorrow clinches the World Championship for you. Is that then the goal? Are you just thinking about finishing on the podium, or is it still going for the win?
I don't know. The time will come when I think of that. But for now, you know, disappointed to not be on pole, and I still want to try win tomorrow. So that's going to be the goal.
And Oscar, for you, great effort throughout. You're very quick in P1, came up a little bit short in Q3. How was the run for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty good. I think the lap I did in Q1 was nice to finally get into a rhythm through the weekend. And honestly, I think the last lap in Q3 was pretty good as well. There wasn't a whole lot left in that. So, no, just not quite quick enough today. But, yeah, sets up a pretty exciting day tomorrow.
Qualifying pace is one thing. Obviously, race pace, a completely different thing. Do you think you've got what it takes to get by these two guys tomorrow for the win?
We'll find out tomorrow. I think Max has looked very quick in the long runs this weekend, and you know, clearly very quick over one lap. But yeah, let's see how much pace is a factor tomorrow.
And then Max is finally back to you. Obviously, a win essentially is all you can control, like you said. Is there any point worrying about what's happening behind you, or is it just eyes forward for 58 laps?
Oh, we'll find out tomorrow, don't we? Let's see what we can do. Of course, I'll try to win the race, but also in the back of my mind, we want to try and score a lot of points to still try and win that championship. So we need a bit of luck from what is happening behind us.
All right, well, hey, top three in the championship or top three in the race. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. Congratulations.
Thank you to James Hinchcliffe speaking to the top three contenders for the Formula One World Championship. Max Verstappen will start ahead of championship leader Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri in third. And did that final answer to Hinch indicate that there might be some tactics to come tomorrow night? Nothing has been straightforward in 2025. 2 great laps from Max Verstappen claimed the final pole of the year, and he has taken the most poles of 2025. His 8th Formula One pole position trophy for this campaign. Lando Norris finishing on 7, Oscar Piastri finishing on 6, George Russell 2, Charles Leclerc 1. That is Formula One qualifying in 2025. Been some thrilling laps. If you think back for Max Verstappen in Japan, in Saudi, in Miami, just with an ability to steal pole positions away. Today, set up so well. Fresh tyres for both runs, able to attack to the maximum of his capabilities and help from his teammate as well. He improved on the final lap, and he took the 8th pole position of the season, and he's 5th around Abu Dhabi.
Unbelievable speed, Max. Just pure speed.
Yeah, fantastic work, guys. So it's a great qualifying. So let's have some fun out there tomorrow.
Sounds like a Formula One title decider to me. Loads of fun to come your way. It is pole position number 48 for Max Verstappen, who is the driver to beat. If you want to take the crown in the World Championship and the driver to beat from pole position tomorrow. What a stage, what a story. My thanks to Jolyon Palmer and to David Coulthard for their analysis all the way through. A qualifying hour that puts Max Verstappen up on top. We'll see you tomorrow night for the title decider in Formula One.